The idea of new media, our definition, is protean. It's changing all the time. New media can be something in the moment that is understandable in the world. What is new media? It depends who you are. It depends how you see the world. It depends what time you're living in. It's moving and changing all the time. And so to be as flexible as possible in defining new media is necessary. Our curatorial practice focuses on exhibition making and public engagement. Within that, we have developed this holistic practice. We take the idea of exhibition making from choosing the works all the way through the shipping, the building, the making, the connecting with the physical process of building an exhibition. All of that is part of our curatorial practice. So the idea of exhibition making is very broad. We ourselves come from such diverse backgrounds, design and conservation and art history and visual arts, and all those things come together into our curatorial practice and define how we see the world. Our interest is understanding how people see the world around them and how artists allow us to see that. We don't do works that are focused on the artist, an understanding of the artist as a person. They're focused on more abstract ideas, philosophical ideas. It opens it up to everyone. It allows everybody a way in.
Conceptual, abstract, theoretical, bigger, broader ideas that are not representational. We don't tend to show representational work.
We're choosing works in a very intuitive way as well. Our brains are understanding something that we can't quite articulate at the time, and then we realize that is quite often the right choice.
Starting point for any exhibition is arbitrary. One of our fears, I think, is becoming rote, that our exhibitions would inevitably become rote. We wanted the foregrounding to always be the work.
We're constantly looking at works. It's a very organic process which relies on our being able to recognize connections. This idea of connections is really important. So you have to be really vigilant all the time. You're always looking for connections, and you find connections constantly.
Those connections aren't necessarily visual, they're not necessarily technological, they're not necessarily aesthetic. These works are linked by sound, or they could be linked by material or process, or because they're brought together by a particular philosophical viewpoint or a social situation, a cultural situation. When a new work is introduced, it can change the whole relationship of all the other works. And we suddenly see those two works through a different lens.
Yeah.
They kind of coalesce really quickly. And then the longer, more difficult work of refining and honing and pulling them into a really tight, cohesive exhibition begins.
We want to be fluid and flexible, and what this allows us to do is take something very relevant to what's going on in the world. We're in a moment now, which is post-COVID, which is defined by what's going on in the United States and all the worries there, and is defined by war around the world. Artificial intelligence. We can grab something, we can add that to the exhibition quite late. And that's, I think, why people find some of our exhibitions quite relevant.
There's always a lens the works are seen through. And when we do something like bringing in an AI work very late, that changes all of the relationships. The whole theme of the exhibition can pivot based on a new work coming in.
That lens forces us or encourages us to choose works in a particular way. We may not even understand how it's doing that. An exhibition has very different qualities, atmosphere, feeling. A moment where you walk in and you're struck by this thing that is the exhibition, which is coming through all your senses. The goal is to have each exhibition really identifiable as that exhibition, and people will say, oh, I remember that one. The design process then can go through many, many different iterations.
We never try and take shortcuts. We're doing this design because we think this is the best design for this exhibition. And if it means more work, then it means more work. For us, building it means that we make a photorealistic, life-size model in the computer based on taking all philosophical elements and bringing everything together. And then we start to make renderings of those models. We then counter all of the technical specs for the exhibition with our own technical specs. This is what we're proposing to do. The response is typically, this is fantastic, do this.
We have to build the exhibition from the works.
We need to understand the scale of the work. We also need to bear in mind fire regulations, sprinklers, building codes, accessibility. All of these things have to then start to meld together into an exhibition. I can't underscore enough how important the preparators are. We have preparators that are willing and able to build walls. You have to move from taking down very fragile and expensive technological artworks to doing a demolition of the space, to then building walls, boarding, painting, then switching back into working with technology. And they're a very special group of preparators.
It's really, really hard work.
It's a bit like building a house every 3 months.
Yeah. Because we're very experienced, because we're very confident, we like to install the work. And if it's really difficult, we'll bring the artist in or one of their studio people. And then it's just scheduling and making sure everything gets there on time and at the right time. And so you might be pulling things in from 6 different countries. They all have to go through customs. All of that stuff has to be done.
We actually curate with waves. So we have to understand that almost all of our works will have either light waves or sound waves associated with them. And that's where the whole thing of building walls and rebuilding the gallery comes from. We have to separate works. The only way we can separate works is to build walls. One of the things that we always do with our exhibitions is we play all of the audio simultaneously. So if there were 10 works, we would turn on our computer all 10 works at the same time. Cacophony of noise. What is the overall soundscape of the exhibition? This one is really like at odds with the other ones, so we'll turn the sound off on that one.
Or we might lose it.
But more likely, we'll build a soundproof room for it. Or it might be decided that that piece has to go in the middle space where there's a physical barrier between the two rooms. And then we listen to the sound, and then we start to figure out how different sound will work together. And some pieces will fall away as a result of that. But we listen to it and we think, how do we want it to sound? And then we think about how much of that sound do we want you to hear when you come in. So sometimes you'll come in and there will be an antechamber, in a sense, where you'll hear a sound from everything when you come in.
We don't say engagement is for the people who do engagement.
And with Civic Gallery, we determined was really focused on the idea of an audience, public. We're working for the community.
The first thing that makes the gallery different is the style of engagement, the engagement by the curators with the public.
The work we were showing, people had no experience with, because there's very little of it being shown, certainly in a condensed way. And this is where the idea of the radical curatorial engagement came in.
Respect for the public is important. Not thinking that they're not going to be able to understand it, but believing that they will understand it and they will love it. And the other thing is being humble, not isolating yourself from the public as a curator, but being on the floor and actually having to do the work of connecting with the public. Generosity. And this is something that we include in our vision and our gallery sort of mandate is generosity. You have a generosity of spirit. You want to connect. You want to give something of what you've learned from the artists and from the work and from having worked in this area for a long time. And you do that every day. It's not just occasionally.
The most pressing thing we have to do is engage with the person.
Yeah.
And we feel that the way you serve the public is you're generous with your time, you're generous with your knowledge, you make it as accessible and easy as possible.
We try to have conversations. It's not about taking people on a rote tour. It's about conversing with them and trying to understand where they're coming from, how much they know.
The visitor's voice is critically important, not just to us, but it allows us to give feedback to the artists that people have profound experiences in this gallery. There's a strong emotional contact with it.
All the time, we're sort of questioning, how can we connect this person to this work? The works that we choose are right for the balance of the exhibition, and they're right because they are answering a need from the public. We get just constant positive feedback, not for ourselves, but just for the whole project. It makes you realize what a hunger there is for whatever this is. This combination of difficult, sometimes challenging contemporary art